Welcome to the full count. This is the 3 and 2 count. They got the full count going on. My name is your host, Ray Cruz. I got Greg, the Keg Gallo. How you doing today, Greg?
Doing pretty good. Ray, how you doing, bud?
Doing good. It's been so long since you've been on full count here. We got to get the baseball talking here.
I know I had to go to America's other national pastime, bowling, for the summer. So
Yeah, how was your handicap?
yeah. Bowling was pretty good. The team that I was on, we picked up third place. At the end of fall league a few months ago, but summer league was a little bit rough. I think we ended up getting like fifth or sixth place, but it was fun.
That's good. So we're getting baseball back into full swing here on this full count show. We're gonna talk about here about the Atlanta Braves and the turnaround in the National League East, going from third all the way up into first now. What do you think got the Braves up past the Mets and the Phillies in that division right now?
Well, Ray, when the season first started, I thought for sure that with all the moves that the Mets made this year, with getting Lindor, getting Taiwan Walker, picking up some big picks, getting some big pickups in the offseason and everything that they did, I thought they were going to run away with it. I thought that the Braves were going to be right there, in second place and probably a wild card team. But man, the Braves are coming on strong. I really don't know exactly what is going on with the Mets, but they've just been tanking. I'm surprised that they're not farther down than they are, because they're not getting very good hitting. DeGrom, he got a little bit of good news a few days ago. I don't think that his arm is in as bad a shape as they were thinking. But still, with him being out of the pitching rotation for quite some time, and the lack of hitting, and then of course that big glaring hole that they have at third base that they weren't able to do anything with at the trade deadline, that really hurt them. So, but the Braves pitching is finally coming along. I think we've been talking about all season long that they've got a top five pitching rotation when they're healthy, and they didn't show it at first. They got off to a slow start, but I think their pitching is really starting to come around. And of course, Freddie Freeman is stable as always. He's pounding the ball, and they're just getting excellent play. And I'm a little surprised that the Braves are making this push without Acuna in the lineup, but man, they're just making it happen.
Yeah, I've been reading about some articles on about the Braves and how they making that comeback. It all started when they got Adam when they got Duvall in the trade, kind of spiked that lineup a little bit. Freeman was coming into being the MVP. Freeman, like we've seen, he had that slow start because of missing all that training camp time because of the new baby and stuff like that, and it was just picking up slow. And like I said, I'm always been a Braves fan. We always start slow. And we always pick it up towards the end. And I think this is what that causes right now. But I want to go with some numbers here a little bit. You're talking about Aguna being out with the ACL tear and all that thing. I thought the season was over when they lost their best player at the time, because he was the only one keeping the Braves afloat, in that hitting lineup and stuff like that. So, but I'm going to take a little bit further. Since the trade deadline, Phillies in the deadline is now, since the trade deadline, are 12-12. The Mets at the trade deadline are 7-18, but the Braves are with the biggest turnaround at 17-7. So you look at the Phillies and the Mets are really helping the Braves get up in that cause, but the Braves also help doing their part in too in that 7-17. Do you surprised that the Mets and the Phillies hasn't done really anything before the trade deadline?
Yeah, I thought for sure that with DeGrom out, with his arm issues and stuff, I thought that they might have went out and picked up, somebody out there to kind of fill the gap and stuff, especially if he was going to be out the rest of the season. And I really don't understand what's going on in Philadelphia. I know that they're paying Harper a lot of money, and of course McCutcheon's getting pretty good payday, but I thought that the Phillies would be making some moves too, but it looks like they're just kind of the Phillies are just kind of content, I guess, to be kind of in third place or so. Yeah, but I thought for sure that the Mets, I thought that they would have deep pockets and would went after somebody, at this point, because DeGrom was pretty much the heart and soul of this team before he went down. I mean, he had a phenomenal ERA. He was pitching lights out. There was at one point in the season, he had more runs batted in than total runs allowed. So he had like 3 RBIs and then only giving up 2 runs, through like several games. So he was just pitching lights out, and then he started having some tenderness and everything in his arm, and the team just hasn't been the same. And I don't know. I thought that the Mets were gonna make some big splashy moves. I thought that they might have been able to go get Chris Bryant, but Chris Bryant surprisingly ended up with the Giants. And the Giants are another team that's playing lights out, and they're playing pretty much with house money. They don't have a lot of huge names, but they were able to go get Bryant at least for the rest of the season. So I am kind of surprised in this division, because this division isn't quite blown out of the water quite yet, but it looks like Atlanta's got a pretty good hold on it. But I thought for sure that the Mets and Steve Cohen, I thought that they were going to make some moves, and they didn't really do anything significant at the trade deadline.
Yeah, and I look at this a little bit deeper here for the Braves, but I want to another thing interesting on the pointed out with here that came across somewhat I have read about the Braves turnaround. Now listen to this and tell me if you believe they could be the best in baseball right now. Freddie Freeman at first base is 27 home. Freddie Freeman infield this season, is 27 home runs and 70 RBIs. Ozzy Albides, 22 home runs and 84 RBIs. Dansby Swanson, 25 home runs, 75 RBIs. And Austin Riley at 27 home runs and 76 RBIs. Do you consider this production the best in baseball right now in the infield?
I think, especially from an infield standpoint, yeah. I've always been a huge Dansby Swanson fan. When he was at Vanderbilt, and they won a national title and everything, and he had outstanding defense. I thought that he was going to be a solid shortstop. I wasn't really thinking that he was going to be a 25-plus home run guy at shortstop. I thought that maybe he'd be more like a 15 to 20 kind of guy, at some point. Right. And he kind of started out slow. He was first drafted by the Diamondbacks and then traded to the Braves. And he kind of started out slow, and there was a time where I didn't even know if he was going to be a 10 home run guy, because he seemed to be more about defense than having an offensive explosion. But yeah, with Albies and Freeman and Swanson, that's huge. That's not only, I think, the best in baseball, but that's pretty much a lot of what has catapulted them to the top of this division, because without Acuna in there, who was by far probably their most talented player and most explosive player, Swanson's 25 home runs has been huge. I think that it was kind of unexpected to have that much production out of him, honestly. Right. But guys like Albies, knocking in 22 home runs, I mean, that's big. That's huge. That's making up for Acuna's absence. And I think that the other thing besides their production that's going on is their pitching rotation and their bullpen is really coming through. You saw it, Ray. You're one of their biggest fans. You saw the slow start. I couldn't believe it with all those great arms that they had. And picking up Charlie Morton and everything. I thought that it was going to be lights out. During certain stretches, and it just didn't pan out. But now they're starting to get healthy. Now they're starting to get more run support, and things are starting to click.
Max Fry is not a DeGrom type player, but when DeGrom started, his ERA was like 0.54 or something like that. But in the last 4 outings for Max Fry, his ERA is insane. It's 0.67 ERA over his last 4 starts. He's 4-0 in those games. Fry's last 11 starts, the Braves are 8-3. He has been incredibly valued. Despite dealing with key injuries to the rotation at various points of the season, Atlanta is very serviceable. So, I mean, that slow start, we know the Atlanta Braves always did a slow start and stuff like that. But, like the bullpens picked up, Max Fry's picked up, the starting pitchers picked up, everybody on the infield. Now, without Acuna there, and the Braves lineup is still dangerous, through 1 through 9. You know, they're hitters and stuff like that. They're still dangerous in that spot. But with the pickup of that, but what is why is the Mets start off strong and then they're the opposite of the Atlanta Braves. They start off strong, then they slow out towards the end of the season.
I really don't know why they're having such a drop off right now. Other than the most significant injury, I think, is obviously Degrom. They've been taking precautions with him, but it looks like everything may be clear and good to go. In a short time. I don't know if he's coming back for the rest of the season. I think it'll depend on the playoff picture and everything. But it looks like he doesn't have any significant injuries going on up to this point. But he has had some elbow tenderness and some shoulder issues. But I think the one thing that really, I think that the Mets have had a little bit of the injury bug. They picked up Baez. That was a pretty decent pickup on paper. At the trade deadline. But then Baez came in. He had a home run his first game there, as did Chris Bryant, as did Rizzo. All the Chicago Cubs move on and they pound the ball their first game in new uniforms. But Baez got injured shortly after that. Francisco Lindor hasn't been remotely near his old self when he played for Cleveland. So at least for this season, I don't think Lindor's really panned out as well as expected. So I think that and of course the third base play has been missing all year long. They don't have a good bat in the lineup at third base, and they definitely don't have great defensive play at that position, and that's a huge position. And I think that's a position that they're going to lock down in the off season. They're going to go after a big name third baseman because they just can't keep getting away with the defensive errors and everything at that position. But I think it goes deeper than that. I just don't think that they have, on paper, they have decent players. They have players that can put up good numbers, but they're just not hitting the ball right now. And I don't know what the deal is, but they're just getting very inconsistent play.
Yeah, and to me, there's Michael Confronto. He appeared to jumpstart the season with the Mets' first road trip following the All Star break, but his breakout was just a blimp on the screen. The slumping outfielder who just went 1 for 3 Friday night on the loss, and then he subsequently is batting 201, 331, and 329 slash in the lineup. But I mean, is it hit just him, or is it just the whole team slumping in the hitting department?
It just, to me, it seems like they never can get more than a couple guys going at the same time. It just seems like if Alonso is hitting well, another guy seems to start to drop off. And then it seems if Conforto starts hitting well, then Alonso or somebody starts dropping off. So they never do seem to be able to click at the same time. I don't know. It's just, it's not completely inconsistent. There are a few guys there that are hitting fairly consistently. But it seems like some of their bigger names and their bigger contract players just aren't being very consistent with hitting the ball. So Alonso's gone through some bad slumps. Conforto's gone through some bad slumps. So yeah, they're just not hitting the ball. And then they're, I don't know exactly. Maybe Nate could tell us the stat line for their third base play and everything. But man, they've had several plays this year at third base that have cost them some games or some go ahead runs.
Right, and then
So
we talk about the team with the worst record in baseball. We said Arizona had the worst record in baseball for a lot of times that we came on. Right now, Baltimore Orioles is 40-86 with the actual worst record in baseball. Arizona's picked it up just a tad, and stuff like that. So besides, Baltimore, Texas, Pittsburgh, and Arizona, what other teams you think is going to miss the wild card out of the wild card race? What team are you think is going to pick up the pace and win that wild card race?
in what division? The National League or American League?
Both.
Um,
What
Looking at it
races
right
are you?
now, I think that I wouldn't put it past the Seattle Mariners to sneak into the wild card in the American League. I think that the wild card in the American League is going to probably either be Tampa Bay in Seattle or New York and Seattle. I think that Boston's kind of slumping right now. They still have a game and a half over Oakland, but I think that Seattle is picking up some steam and playing the best baseball that Seattle's seen probably, in, at least in the last 10 years or so. So I think that's my bold prediction. Is I think that Seattle might make a move. They're 2.5 out right now, but they're 7-3 over their last 10. And Boston, they're 5-5 and barely hanging on, and they've definitely lost a grip, in the American League East. So the Yankees seem to be the team with the most steam going on there, but then Tampa Bay's holding on to a pretty good lead too. So I don't know if the Yankees are going to catch them, but they won 11 straight. So I definitely think worst case scenario for the Yankees is they're going to for sure get a wild card spot. I think that when it's all said and done, I think that the Dodgers will probably catch San Francisco and pass them in their division, but I think that San Francisco is definitely going to be the number one wild card team. I just think that the Dodgers have picked up way too many decent players at the trade deadline, especially picking up Scherzer, which will definitely help out in Trevor Bauer's absence. And they went out and got some big bats and picked up Pujols, before the trade deadline, and he's still coming through with some big knocks every now and then. So I think that the Dodgers may take over that. But so that being said, I think that San Francisco and I think that I'm going to go with the Reds. I think the Reds are one of those teams. I've been kind of upset with them this year because early on in the season they put up 15 runs, and then the next game they put up no runs or 1 run. So, but they seem to be getting a lot more consistent, and they really haven't had to make a ton of moves, to get where they're at. They got some really good young players. They kind of remind me of San Francisco, where they don't have a lot of huge names, but they seem to play well together and everything. So I think that the NL wild card, I think that Cincinnati is going to be there. I think that San Diego, even though they're only a game and a half out, they're 2-8 over their last 10, and they just seem to be out of sorts too. So there's a lot of teams that I had picked high. I thought that the Padres were going to win the West after all the moves that they made in the offseason, but I think that they're just starting to lose their grip, just like the Mets.
Yeah, all your teams and stuff. I think that's to me. I think that's surprising that San Diego is really doing what they're doing. I thought they were going to be content. We all discussed the beginning of the season. If you go back and look at some of our beginning of the season shows, we had them up there with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers. That. But the team that really surprised coming out of that West right now is San Francisco Giants. We didn't really think they were going to compete like this, but they've been competing all season long and all the way through halfway through the season, but now they're still competing. They're still number one. Why haven't the Dodgers really have caught them and try to pass them right now? Are the Dodgers just hanging back, trying to keep them in tag and then play them at the end, or are they just letting San Francisco believe they're dominating them and then just winning in the postseason?
Yeah, I don't think that the Dodgers are really dialing it back, and everything. I think that they're still playing hard. I just think that one thing about the Dodgers is they haven't been at full force most of the season either. They've had Bellinger out at times. They've had Mookie Betts out. So they're kind of like the Los Angeles Lakers. They're one of those teams that look great on paper, but if you can't get anybody out on the field or on
Right.
the court, it's not going to happen. But I mean, they're going to be a deadly team if they can get everybody back healthy because they got a top-notch pitching staff. And they've got all the talent that money can buy, and we know that they've invested a lot of money into that team. But I would love to see the Giants be able to keep up, and still win out the division. But I think that with the Dodgers, winning 9 out of their last 10, and with San Francisco with a pretty good tough stretch coming up, I think it's going to be tough for them. to
Right.
hold on.
True. I believe in the same thing that you believe in there. I think the Dodgers is going to play what they need to do to get in postseason, and I think they could overtop San Francisco. But I wouldn't be surprised to be San Francisco taking that division, either. So I mean, they're the two teams that are really battling it out for that division. Um, we think the Braves are probably going to end up being a lock in the East. So that's going to knock out the whole entire East. Besides the Braves getting into the playoffs, so I mean, so to me, we thought the East was going to go all the way down to the end. It still could go all the way down to the end, maybe if the Mets start picking back up here pretty soon. But we getting that month of, end of this month and the beginning of September where they battling it out for the playoffs, and then October comes around and then the playoffs will start. So we only got like month and a month and a week left of baseball in regular season before we get into the postseason. So right now, if you had to pick as of right now, what teams would you see rounding out the playoffs for the National League right now?
Um, I think they're going to go back to just division leaders and two wild cards this season, right?
I think so.
Okay, so um, I think that Houston is going to definitely. I think they're at this point are going to win the AL West. I think that the White Sox pretty much have the Central, and it's just going to be a question of whether the Yankees can keep up what they're doing. They're still 5 games back or so, 4.5 games back of Tampa Bay, so that's going to be a coin toss for me whether the Yankees can stay hot with that. But at this point, I think Tampa Bay's probably going to be able to hold just because they have decent pitching and they're playing some pretty good team ball and they've been consistent all year. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that. And then I think that for the American League, of course, I think it's going to be the Yankees and a surprise pick for me because I'm not a huge Mariners fan, but one of my former teachers, Doug Vesey, shout out to him who watches the show every now and then. I think that finally his Seattle Mariners are going to go sniff the playoffs for the first time since King Griffey Jr. was there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I'm
and
looking at the playoffs. I'm looking at the playoffs right now. The National League and American League wild card all start October 5th and 6th. The American League National League Division Series starts October 7th through the 14th. The National League and American League Championship Series are the 15th through the 24th, and then the 21 World Series go October 26th to November 3rd. So that's what you're looking at your playoff pictures right there. So
yeah, so for the National League, I think that the Dodgers are going to make up the game and a half, 2 games that they're behind on the Giants. I think that with 34 games, that's easily, I think that isn't out of reach for them. So I think that Milwaukee is going to walk away with the Central, and I think that Atlanta pretty much, unless something big time happens, is going to take over the uh, keep keep their lead in the East. And then I think that the Giants and the Reds are going to go into the wild card.
yeah. And another thing with these Atlanta Braves to me is this season, what's surprising this season is that 31 and 31 at home, and Atlanta Braves are 37 and 27 on the road. So that's kind of unusual. Usually it's the other way around. They're 500 on the road and they're over 500 on home. So this season is a little bit unusual for the Braves. But I'm picking the Atlanta Braves taking the East. Um, I got San Francisco holding on by half a game over the Dodgers, and the Dodgers will be in that unique position to play in that wild card game. So, to me, I think, with barring injuries and stuff, I think those two out of the West. Um, the Central Division, I think that's a pretty much a lot because they're 8.5 games ahead of Cincinnati. And I think Cincinnati will hold on to that other wild card berth for the National League.
Tampa Bay and Houston and Milwaukee are the only 3 teams right now in the major playoff race that actually have better records at home away than at home.
Yeah.
So,
So that's,
so that
that's,
might give
that's
them an advantage a little bit in the come the playoffs.
right. I don't think the Yankees. I think the Yankees are going to run out of gas here, trying to because they're playing 11 games to win streak right now to playing catch up to Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is going to hold off, but I do think the Yankees are going to hold on to one of the wild card race. And then you got your White Sox. They're 9.5 games. That's a no brainer for the Central Division. And Houston is at 5 games, barring injuries and stuff. I don't think Oakland or Seattle will catch them, and I think Seattle will take that other wild card spot. So I mean, we're pretty much in agreement here on certain things of the baseball season, except for the Dodgers. You said the Dodgers are going to win. I said the same. I say the Giants will win that division by half a game.
Yeah, I'd love to see the Giants keep pace, but I just think that the Dodgers spent a lot of money at the trade deadline just to be able to catch up.
Right. I don't know if you got the Major League Baseball power rankings for Week 20. I'm gonna go through them, and you just tell me if you agree or disagree with it. Right now, you have your number one team on the power rankings will be the San Francisco Giants. Do you agree with the number one ranking with them for right now in this week of 20?
Um, I agree with it for right now, but I think that within the next 3 weeks or so, I think they're probably going to be closer to like the number 3 or 4 spot, just because they just have a very strong schedule coming up. So I think that the Dodgers are. I think the Dodgers have a favorable schedule to make a little bit of headway there. So
Yeah, they got the Dodgers number two, and then Tampa Bay coming in number three. Do you, to me, right now, they pretty much got them even with the records. 79-48 for the Tampa Bay, 80-47 for Los Angeles, and 82-44 for San Francisco. So basically they're just using their records, and right now the first three is showing, the top three teams right there.
and I'll tell you, I think that in my opinion, this is just my opinion. I think that with the excellent pitching and everything that they got going on in Milwaukee, I think that Milwaukee is actually probably deserving of the number 3 spot.
Yeah, right now they're 78-49. They're half a game behind Tampa in that ranking because they went for three. Tampa stayed at three, but Milwaukee went up one from 5 to 4, and then the Dodgers has moved up from the previous ranking from 9 to 5. I'm sorry, the New York Yankees has from 9 to 5 at 74-52. So they did a four spot move up. Do you agree with that 4 spot move up with the Yankees and the way they've been playing?
Um, I agree with the 4 spot markup. I don't know quite yet if they're a top 5 team, but I definitely do think that they deserve to move up several spots. Just because they've won 11 in a row, and they're just tearing it up right now. But I mean, you got to look at all the money that they had to spend to get there too. They picked up Gallo, they picked up Rizzo, they picked up every big bat really that you could find, other than maybe Chris Bryant or Javi Baez. But they pretty much got about 60%, 70% of all the decent pickups out there at the trade deadline. But it's not just that for the Yankees. Their pitching is starting to come around too. They're starting to actually get a lot better pitching. That was kind of a sore spot. That was one of the reasons why they fell back so hard in their division behind Tampa Bay and the Red Sox at one point, was because their pitching was just very lackluster, and they were just using the heck out of their bullpen all the time. But now they seem to have a little bit more stability, and they're letting their pitchers go a little bit longer. They're not just you're 5 innings and you're out. They're getting a little bit more longevity out of their arms. So that's helping out a lot too. So I don't have a problem with the Yankees being in the 5 hole, but I think that before the trade deadline, I think that they were like at 9 or 10, maybe 11 teams. So I think that this has a lot to do with just all the big bats that they went out and bought.
Yeah, and now they have the Atlanta Braves coming in at 68 and 58 at number 8, and the Boston Red Sox at number 9 at 72 and 56. Do you agree with the 8 spot for the Braves and the 9 spot for the Red Sox?
Um, if you're basing everything off of records right now, then maybe I'm definitely okay with the 8 spot right now for the Braves. But I think that the Boston Red Sox, I think that that's a little bit high considering how they played their last 10 games. They're 5-5 over their last 10 games. They just seem out of sync. They're one of those teams. They're one of those surprising teams because we talked about this a long time ago that Boston wasn't expected to do much, but they did have about 5 decent players at the top of their lineup.
Yeah,
So they've been playing without Chris Sale. They started the season without Chris Sale. They didn't have a lot of big money players, but they had at least 5 guys that could hit the ball in the top of the lineup. And I think that they're one of those teams like we've been talking about that may have peaked a little bit early because I think that when it's all said and done, I think that Boston is going to end up like around probably 13 or 14. When it's all said and done, because they just seem to be falling apart.
yeah. It seemed to me on this power ranking that they went from 8, 9, and 10, and the Braves jumped the Oakland Athletics. It was 70 and 57, and then the Red Sox 72 and 56. I understand the Red Sox play because since that plays the Yankees passed them, the Red Sox play has gone down a little bit. But I mean, Red Sox to me are a surprise. But because Alex Cora came back, they done a pretty good season, not in last place like they were last year. Um, but then Oakland comes in at 757. You think number 10 is kind of low for the Oakland Athletics?
Number 10 for the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah, they were
Um,
previous ranked number 7. They dropped 3 spots in this ranking.
um, I don't think at this point it's too low because Oakland is 2-8 over their last 10 games, and they've just lost 4 in a row. So I think that they're, and I'm an Oakland A's fan. I got an Oakland A's shirt on right now. So I don't think it's too low. I think that they're deserving to lose a few spots because they've only won 2 out of their last 10 games. So their pitching has kind of been hit and miss lately, and I mean they still have some decent talent, in the lineup and stuff. But as we know with the Oakland A's, they're one of those teams that pretty much they build up great players, and then eventually some of them move on, just like we saw Chris Davis move on to the Rangers in the offseason. And now, we got some other big players that can smash the ball, and their contracts are going to come up. And I don't know if the A's are ever going to be able to fulfill their fantasy of winning a World Series championship team, on a budget. Because
Right.
they get some good players, but then they don't really seem to invest much at the trade deadlines and stuff. So I think they're another team that's going to sadly kind of drift away out of the playoff picture.
And, we were talking about the Seattle Mariners making the wild card and all this playoff push, but they got them at the power ranking number 14, and they're below San Diego and they're below the Toronto Blue Jays. You think that's fair for Seattle be ranked at number 14 below the slumping Padres and the Toronto Blue Jays?
Well, I think that when they do these power rankings, I think that they do a lot of that strictly on kind of their record and their winning percentage. I don't think they factor in what their upcoming games are or what their last 10 games are or what their run differentials. I think that there's a lot of stats that they're overlooking and everything. So I do think that it's a little bit low because I think that Seattle is playing some of the best baseball right now. So I do think it's a little bit low. I don't think that Seattle should be right now in the top 10, but I think that 14 is a little low. I think that probably like an 11 or 12 would be more suitable for, how well they're playing. I know that record wise, they're still behind the Padres, still behind the Blue Jays, but I don't know. I don't know. I have a weird feeling that the Mariners are going to make a pretty good push for the playoffs this season.
Right. So I mean, we just looking at these rankings here. You got Philadelphia at number 15. You got the Cardinals at number 16. You got the Indians at 17, and you can come with your Mets at 18. You know, the Mets is just falling apart because at one time the Mets were in the top 10, and now they're barely in. Almost coming out of the top 20 right now. So I mean, they moved from 17 down from last week down to number 18. Do you think the Mets will be able to turn this thing around before the end of the month of next month? They even be in some kind of contention, or are they just going to keep falling out of and downward?
Well, you said it best. You said that they were 7-17, 7 wins in their last 24 games since the trade deadline, and they ended up picking up a big piece, in that at the trade deadline with Javi Baez, who got hurt almost immediately after he came into the lineup. So I think he's starting to get healthy again. But right now they're sitting at 61 and 65, and so they're 4 games under right now, and they were, uh, about 6 or 7 games over 500 at the trade deadline. So yeah, I definitely don't think that they're going to make a push. I think that when it's all said and done, I think that they're going to be very lucky if they break 500. I think that um, 79, 80 games would be probably pretty good for them at this point, just because they just seem to have a lot of holes in their lineup right now.
Yeah, and then we're almost getting ready to start talking about 2022 season for these New York Mets once again. As a little bit of a downfall, we thought they were going to be a little bit better than what they were with the new ownership and stuff like this. But now we're gonna look. Let's play a little game here and look ahead for them on the 2022 season. You got Michael Conforto, you got Marcus Stroman, you got Noah Segagard, Javier Baez, and then don't forget they got Robinson Cano will be back on the books at 20.25 million. So now at these free agents, are they gonna have enough money to sign these free agents, or are they just gonna have to go and try to get some other players besides trying to re-sign these free agents with these
Well, I think that
big
the first thing
contracts?
I think that the first thing they need to try to do is get Robinson Cano off the books. That's a huge contract. We all know that Robinson Cano was an excellent player, especially when he played for the Mariners. He could blast it. He played pretty solid defense and everything. But he's another one of those aging superstars that just aren't really, uh, they're not really that productive. We've seen it with Miggy Cabrera, who hit his 500th home run this last weekend, and that's all great and everything, but he's getting paid like almost $40 million a year, and he's sitting at 12 home runs. I don't think that 12 home runs really justifies 40 million a year, from a team that's on a rebuild and has potential to do something within the next 2 or 3 seasons. Um, so as far as the Mets, I think that they need to try to figure out a way to get Robinson Cano off the books, because there's a lot better bats that they can get at this point, and there's a lot better defense that they can get too, um, at second base. So I think that first and foremost, you need to try to do that. Um, Conforto, you know, there's times where he can light it up, and there's times where he's not. I don't even think he's hitting 200 right now. Is he, Ray?
Uh, Let me see where I don't think so. I think he's hitting a little bit below. Right now, his hitting percentage is 218. He has 8 home runs and 30 RBIs so far in the 21 season. He's batting 6.69 in OPS. His last 7 days is .188. His OPS last 7 days is .568. He has no home runs in the last 7 days. He has no RBIs in the last 7 days. Um, the last game against San Francisco, he was the series against San Francisco. 5 games played. He was 20 at bats, 2 runs, 4 hits, 2 RBIs. He had 1 RBI, and he had 3 base walks, and he had 7 strikeouts in that series against San Francisco. Right now, he's batting at home. He's 134 average bat. He's 16 runs, 30 hits, six doubles, 15 RBIs, and 19 walks, and 40 strikes out at home. If you look on the road, if you look in August, he's 23 games played in the month of August. He's 72 at bats. He's got 12 runs, 20 hits, six doubles, two home runs, six RBIs, and 12 that, and he struck out 16 times. So that's what you're looking at right now for him.
Yeah. So I think that Conforto is a very solid defensive player. I think that there's times where he can be explosive with the bat. He's a great top of the lineup guy. I think that I may look into re-signing him, but you definitely need to probably get Robinson Cano off the books. And as we talked about the Mets before, third base is a glaring issue. So if you stick Javi Baez there, because you got Lindor, at short, you can maybe put Baez there, or maybe try to move Baez to second base or something. But that's definitely a position that needs to be focused on in the off season, trying to figure out, who's going to be your everyday big bat third baseman. And they need to get a little bit more offensive consistency out of Alonso too. He seems to be kind of dropping off after his big time rookie season. So, they still have some good names. I don't know how you feel, Ray, but I think that the Mets should shop around Syndergaard. I think they should look into maybe holding on to Stroman, because I still think that he's got pretty good upside. I think that Syndergaard has some excellent stuff, but I think that Syndergaard might be a highly sought after, trade piece for him. And I think that they might be able to go get another big bat or something. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they should just trade him to the Braves. Change all their starting. Him and Degrom to the Braves. I think that'd be a whole lot better. Chance of winning the playoffs. But that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think I agree with you. Cano needs to get off the books, but I don't know how they're going to be able to get him off the books with that $25 million they're going to have to pay him. Then you got to look at Bobby Bonilla. He's still on the books too, counting against the salary cap. That's really part. Even though it's $1 million, it's still kind of a little bit of hurt. Him still on the books. I think he's on the books till 2035, I think. But another person that's really caught my eye and interest here is Mike Trout. We're looking at he's on a 60-day DL right now. He's probably going to be finished up for the season. We got to look at 2022. He's going to be age of 31 when 2022 season starts. In the middle of the 2022 season, his birthday's August 7th. He was born in 1991. He'll be 31 years old next season. Do you think the Angels are going to try to trade him, or you think he should just go on and retire?
I missed a little bit of that. Who are you talking about, Ray?
Mike Trout.
Oh, he's locked into a long-term contract with the Angels. I feel really badly about Mike Trout's situation, though, because the Angels are one of those teams that, they're basically like the Phillies. They're always in like third or fourth place every year in their division. They always seem to either be lacking a big bat or some pitching consistency. So, I would love to see Mike Trout make the playoffs. I think that he's wasting his talent. I mean, he's picked up a lot of MVPs, and he's still arguably one of the best players, if not the best player in all of baseball. I think that Acuna is probably going to eclipse him at some point as the best player when he comes back full health in the next season or two. But the Angels aren't doing Trout any favors. But yeah, he's locked in. I don't think they're going to be able to get rid of his salary. It'd be nice if they were able to kind of send him off to a contender, because I don't know. I don't see the Angels really wanting to spend a ton of money trying to build a team around him. So, but I hope that for his sake that they are able to go get some decent pitching and everything to build up a good team around him, because it's sad to see great players not sniff the playoffs. We've seen it in the NFL, with Barry Sanders, didn't hardly see the playoffs. We've seen it with other players that are just kind of wasting their talents on teams that aren't really committed to winning and everything. So, But to answer your question, I think that the Angels are going to hold on to him. There may come a time, you know, within the next 5 years or so where they may be wanting to move on from him because as we see when players start signing their big contracts after the age of 30 or so, we've seen it with Miggy Cabrera. You know, his offensive production is way down the last 3 seasons, and he's locked in on a big term contract. I think that it's time to start paying some of these players early on, kind of like Fernando Tatis signed his contract before he was 21. You know,
Right.
signed a 13-year extension. That way, by the time he's 34, he still may be productive, but you know, the Padres aren't going to have to eat that later on when he's like 36, 37 years old. They can move on from him if they don't think his offensive production is going to be that great.
You think Mike Trout's numbers are considered him now a Hall of Famer?
I don't think that his numbers right now are Hall of Fame, but he's definitely on. I think he's a surefire Hall of Famer, though. I think that, you know, he's definitely going to be one of those guys that's going to hit in between 500 and 600 home runs when it's all said and done. I don't think that right now, if he was to retire right now, I don't think that his numbers would be quite there for a Hall of Fame career, unless his career was cut short by injury or something like that. Then he might get in. But right now, I think that he's just around 320, 330 home runs. I don't think that most players start really sniffing the Hall of Fame unless they're around the 450 to 600 range, you know, on home runs. So, but I definitely think that he's a surefire Hall of Famer.
Now his career right now batting 305. He has 310 home runs, 816 RBIs, and his OPS is 1.002. That's what his career stands right now. And we know his big contract, the long term contract the Angels has him with. Do you think any teams that will take a risk and try to trade for him?
Um, I think that there might be a team out there that's willing to trade for him, but it's going to have to be a team with deep pockets, and we all know who those teams are. The Dodgers and the Yankees
Right.
are the teams like that, you know. But then the Yankees have problems of their own. They got Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton contracts to worry about. So, you know, there's a lot of money to be moved, you know, and then they're deeply invested in Garrett Cole. So, but I think that a team may make a move for him and everything. It's just a matter of are they going to be willing to take some of that salary, and then are the Angels going to be able to maybe eat some of that because some teams out there are very economical and may want the Angels to pay a little bit of his salary, you know, off at first or so if the team takes a chance. So, um, you know, I'd hate to see a player like Mike Trout get traded because I think that he's one of those players that, you know, he's a great guy for the game, and I'd love to see him be like a Cal Ripken or something, you know, or a Tony Gwynn, basically play his entire career on one uniform. But you know, we don't see that too often, and I think that Mike Trout is one of those guys that definitely deserves to retire in the same place that drafted him.
Right. So we're getting close to the end, the end of the show here and stuff like that. What team are you excited to watch to see where they end up at the end of the season?
Um, you know, I'm probably excited to see, you know, that I'm a Cardinals fan and everything, but I'm excited that Yadier Molina is going to finish out his career. You know, as a one-team guy, he's going to come back for 2022, and then he's gonna get sent off. Um, and he's definitely going to make the Hall of Fame. But I think the team that I'm most excited to see is a is a team that. I definitely am excited to see the Brewers and the Reds. You know, I think that the Brewers with their pitching, and of course they're getting a lot more hitting than we expected this season. I think that they're going to be a team. I think that the Brewers actually have a chance to take this whole thing this year, just the way that they're playing, and they got an excellent 1-2 punch with Burns and Woodruff in there. So they've got probably the best 1-2 starting punch right now for starting pitchers, and of course the Reds representing the National League Central. You know, they've been so hit and miss all season long, but they're an exciting young team to watch. So I think it'd be kind of interesting to see what they can do because they play, you know, they sometimes can hit the long ball, but they can play the short game too. Play some of that Whitey Herzog ball. So I think it'll be kind of interesting to watch how the Reds and the Brewers play the rest of the way. Who do
Yeah.
you want to see besides the Braves?
Mm. Me right now, I would like to see where the where Seattle ends up. That's a very interesting team, interesting way they're in the wild card race. And, I had them at number four, in their division at the time, but they improved a little bit. Up to the part where they're going to try to battle out that wild card. So the wild card race is going to be very interesting. But what matchup I'm really interested in is coming up this Friday, is the San Francisco and Atlanta game where Kevin Gossman versus Max Fry. I want to see what Max Fry can keep up going against this hot San Francisco team. San Francisco going to start a 3-game series this weekend with the Atlanta Braves in Atlanta. So I just like, since the Braves are 31-31 at home, this is going to be a very interesting matchup. They're just coming off that 2-game series loss, two straight to the Yankees. So, this is a bounce back series for the Braves. So to keep that going on, but, teams didn't really catch up with the Braves with them 2-game loss because each team really kind of lost themselves. So, that's coming up. So, what do you think about this Friday night matchup with Kevin Gosman and Max Fry in the Giants matchup, pitching matchup?
Well, I think I'm going to give the edge to Max Fried because Gossman has been kind of losing a little bit of gas lately. I think he was a great pickup for the Giants in the offseason. I think that he signed a pretty good deal, and I think that actually they're getting a pretty good return for him. But as of late, I think that Gossman's kind of been slumping a little bit on the mound. That being said, every pitcher that kind of slumps always has a chance to make a comeback or have a really good game. But I think that just the way that they've been playing a little bit, especially on Gossman's last few starts, I wouldn't put it past the Braves to be able to put up some pretty good numbers early on him and everything. It just seems like the last few games that Gossman's pitched and everything, he just hasn't had his best stuff. So I think that the Braves, if they're patient and everything, I think they're going to probably be able to take this at least this first game.
Right. And right now in the top of the seventh, the Giants and the Mets are tied at 2-game, 2-2. The Giants only got 3 hits. The Mets got 7 hits, no errors between the two teams. So who you think is going to win this actual matchup here, coming down to the wire?
You know what? We've been hard on the Mets all day long. I'm gonna throw them a bone, and I'm gonna say that the Mets might be able to pull this one off. That's just because I'm a nice guy, Ray, and it's the end of the show, and I feel like we've been dogging on the Mets all day. So
Hey, we can keep on dogging on them. I mean, it don't hurt. I mean, Chipper Jones always dogged on them.
oh yeah,
So yeah, and the Mets are coming off of they lost the last 2 games against this team. So they at least got to try to win at least one out of the three. So like
oh
that.
yeah.
You know, and then you talk about Cincinnati. You know, were you surprised Cincinnati's victory tonight over the Milwaukee Brewers?
Um, I was a little bit because the Brewers have been playing pretty good. I think they won 7 out of their last 10 or so, and they've been having some really good pitching and everything. But Milwaukee or Cincinnati is just one of those teams that you don't know what you're going to get. One day they'll have pretty good pitching. One day they'll have really bad pitching. One day they'll have excellent hitting, and then the next night they'll have no hitting. But I'm not too surprised because the Reds have just been picking it up of late. So I think that was a pretty good win, and I'm okay with that.
How about the Orioles and the Angels? Orioles win 13-1.
That one I am surprised about. but it's good for the Orioles. They might be able to catch the Arizona Diamondbacks, and maybe they'll get a participation trophy or something for this year.
And then you had the Red Sox bouncing back, is winning right now 5-2 over the Twins in the bottom of the fifth.
you know, I'm not surprised with that. Even as badly as the Red Sox have played, nobody's played, as badly consistently all season long as the Twins. The Twins were one of those teams that was expected to either take the division or at least finish a close second this year, and they're nowhere to be found. So they may not have the worst record in baseball, but they're definitely probably underperforming. As badly as any team that I've seen this season.
And right now, the Diamondbacks over the Phillies 4-0 in the top in the bottom of the fifth. Are you surprised that the Diamondbacks are really now? It's 4-2. Phillies just got on the board here in the bottom of the fifth. So, are you surprised at the score right now? Or you think Phillies going to end up catching them and probably winning this game?
I actually think that the Diamondbacks may hold on to this game. I can't remember. Is this game in Philadelphia or is this game in Arizona?
This game is in Philly.
Okay. Well, I do think that Arizona's going to pull this one off, but the city officials better go ahead and start greasing up the polls, or else the whole town's just going to fall apart after this one.
Yeah, true. Because the Phillies had a promising start, beating the Braves. Sweeping the Braves at the beginning of the season. They were up a little bit on the Mets, and then the Mets took up, and then the Braves were still behind the field. Now the Braves are both of them. So, you think you could concentrate that the Phillies could bounce back and try to make a series with the Braves?
I think that they could bounce back and make it a series with the Braves. They definitely have enough bats in their lineup to make it a series. But I think that at this point, the way that the Braves are playing and the way that their infielders are actually getting a lot of production out of Albies and Swanson, I think that the Braves will be able to handle it.
All right, since you got that Oakland Athletics shirt on, let's talk about the Yankees and the Athletics coming up at 9:40 p.m. tonight. So, who you got in this matchup?
Between Oakland and who?
The Yankees, and it's played in Oakland.
Oh man, I got the Yankees. I think they're going to win 12 in a row. Sad to say, but I think that the Yankees are going to do it.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of the Oakland Athletics, now are they actually going to be moved? Are they going to be actually moving to Las Vegas, following the Raiders?
I hope not, but I don't know. It seems like the Oakland Coliseum is basically the last dive bar in baseball. So,
I mean, you had the Golden State Warriors move out in the NBA to San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then now you got the Raiders that moved out of Oakland now in Las Vegas. Athletics is the last major league team they have in Oakland right now. Now they're about to move ship sailed out of Oakland too, and the Oakland Athletics already already told them they're not going to play there. They're not going to honor their last year contract on it. So where will the Oakland Athletics play next year?
I think that they're probably going to end up having to relocate, but I think that they may end up playing part of the season in Oakland before it's all said and done and finalized and everything. But I sadly I think that they probably will be moving to Vegas or I don't know. I have no idea what the other options are, but yeah, they just can't seem to come up with a deal with the city. To really figure out what to do, how to fix up their stadium or get something new. So I do think they will be moving on, but I think they will may play maybe a quarter of the season still in Oakland in some capacity next season.
Yeah. It's bad with Oakland, all the sports teams they had in there, and now things to think about Oakland with no sports team,
Yeah.
and how that city is gonna, the financial ability of that city now, without the Golden State Warriors now playing in San Francisco and out of the old Coliseum, and then you got the Oakland baseball team is the last professional team standing, and they could be on their way out of Oakland. So I mean, what was the downfall of Oakland not giving the Raiders and all them a new stadium? Why wouldn't he approve that?
I have no idea. I I've read a little bit here and there about what was going on, but it just seemed like there was a lot of holdup within the city, and I don't know if some of the taxpayers didn't want to help chip in, for anything, and I really don't know. That I think that's a that's a show all on its own on why they can't get a new stadium over there. But
Right.
yeah, it's pretty sad. It's very sad because the A's have been there for many years. The Raiders have been there for many years. It's just sad when a team has to relocate.
Yeah. Well, we kind of leave this on a little sad note, but this has been the full count. 3-2. We struck them out on the side there. This has been Greg the Kid Gallo. This has been Ray Cruz and Nate the Great. He's been traveling, the land here and trying to settle up in the Washington State and probably become the new Mariners fan on the show. So, too bad he wasn't here to talk about his new team, the Mariners. But, this has been full count. See you next Thursday. Have a good night.